I believe in America. America has made my fortune.
The United States has played a role in the development of film for quite some time now. The filmmakers of the U.S. have pioneered new editing techniques, sound design, new cinematography, new CGI, and even new genres that have all influenced the way we, the audience, experience the story on the screen.
Are you not entertained?
Action films make us feel adventurous, romance films make us feel love, comedies make us laugh, documentaries expose us to the truth, and thrillers put us on edge. However, one genre in particular has perhaps evolved more than any other, the American horror film. Horror films are the one genre that has spawned countless subgenres, each one employing new film techniques and providing social commentary on the changing times. In this video essay, we will explore the evolution of the American horror film, from its roots with the Universal monsters through the slasher craze of the 80s.
Hi, I'm Chucky. Wanna play?
And into today as horror finds a new home on television. Throughout each component, we'll discuss the techniques filmmakers used at the time and, more importantly, how their narrative actually served as a social commentary for the world around them. Universal Studios was founded in 1912 by Carl Laemmle, and soon after he opened a studio on a 230-acre chicken ranch in Hollywood, California. Not long after, American audiences got their first taste of horror with the silent film The Hunchback of Notre Dame, starring Lon Chaney. Lon Chaney depicted Quasimodo, a disfigured outcast from society. This film was followed up in 1925's The Phantom of the Opera, again starring Lon Chaney, who would grow to become known as the Man of a Thousand Faces, due to his ghastly and grotesque makeup that he would apply himself. Both roles for Chaney depicted disfigured outcasts trying to find acceptance in the bleak world around them. For many audiences, these unique and scarred characters were reminiscent of soldiers returning home after the Great War, who found themselves shunned and lost in the world around them. One scene in particular from The Phantom of the Opera depicts this. While these films were silent, through their use of makeup and storytelling, they spoke volumes to the viewers.
It's alive! It's alive! It's alive! It's alive!
By the 1930s and 40s, Hollywood had become very much industrialized like the world around them and began turning movies out rapidly and on a much grander scale. For some time, Universal continued to reign supreme with monster movies such as Frankenstein, Dracula, and The Wolfman. Each new monster continued to push the envelope of what was seen on the screen. Advancements in makeup pioneered by Jack Pierce allowed for new creatures to take shape. The use of matte paintings thrusted audiences into new worlds. Additionally, these films very much use classical Hollywood style to tell the story, involving wipes and transitions, something of continuity.
Called Doomtown, the buildings and their contents will test the effect of the bomb at distances ranging from 1 to 2 miles.
Following World War II, the United States found themselves in the unsettling nuclear age. Average Americans feared that at any moment a bomb could fall and alter their world.
Children are practicing to duck and cover just as you do in your school.
Once again, horror filmmakers fantasized these ideas and presented them to the audience. Utilization of rear projection and other advancements led to films like The Incredible Shrinking Man and Attack of the 50-Foot Woman, reflecting on the uncertainty of what may happen when exposed to radiation. Creature features like Them exaggerated fears of foreign invaders coming into the U.S. and wreaking havoc.
We may be witnesses to a biblical prophecy come true, and there shall be destruction and darkness come up in creation, and the beast shall reign over the earth.
This is the cup of my blood. The blood blood of the new and everlasting covenant, the mystery of faith.
What an excellent day for an exorcism.
By the 1960s and 1970s, Americans had grown tired of the norm. Years of war, overseas involvement, and civil unrest began to take its toll on the American psyche, causing the youth to rebel against traditional morals and ideas. Films like Rosemary's Baby and The Omen addressed issues of religion, women's liberation, and the occult by depicting characters such as the son of Satan.
What have you done to him, you maniac?
Satan is his father, not Guy. He came up from hell and begat a son of mortal woman. Hail Satan!
Hail Satan!
However, in 1973, audiences were in for a shock with William Friedkin's The Exorcist. A film largely set in a single bedroom caused moviegoers to leave the theater and some even pass out. Special effects shocked audiences on what they were exposed to.
To depart from the servant of God. It's the power. Holy water. Oh! It's the power of Christ that compels you. The power of Christ compels you.
Aside from the jaw-dropping practical effects, developments in sound designs allowed for an innocent girl to completely change on screen.
Well, then, let's introduce ourselves. I'm Damien Karras.
And I'm the devil. Now kindly undo these straps.
In the summer of 1975, Steven Spielberg released what is today considered the very first blockbuster film, Jaws. The film depicts the consequences the world faces when the elite and politicians turn a blind eye to the problems of the majority. Integral to the film is John Williams' simple two-note score. Williams brilliantly used his score as a non-diegetic sound, alerting the audiences when the shark was present. And right when the audience begins to realize this, the score is no longer present for the big reveal of the shark, further scaring the audience.
Slow ahead. I can go slow ahead. Come on down and chump some of this shit.
Here we have a quiet little motel, tucked away off the main highway, and as you see, perfectly harmless looking, when in fact, it has now become known as the scene of the crime.
Many accredit the great Alfred Hitchcock with the first slasher film. Hitchcock's 1960 film Psycho took what the audience thought they knew and flipped it on its head. The villain was no longer a monster or a spirit, it was that one quiet stranger, Norman Bates. Hitchcock unsettled his audience even further by killing off a prominent actress, Janet Leigh, halfway through the film. Psycho influenced filmmakers to strive for that shock value and address fears of moviegoers. Tobe Hooper would do just that in his 1974 film, The Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Hooper took the premise of innocent teens on a road trip and thrust them into all-out hell. For the first time, a low-budget film was making a big impact. Hooper's style of grittiness and extreme close-ups thrust the audience right into the unnerving conditions. What made Psycho and Texas Chainsaw work so well was both directors understood the less is more approach. Rather than reveal all the gore on screen, using editing and actors' performances, the audience was forced to imagine the carnage taking place off screen. Take the famous shower scene from Psycho. We never see the knife actually pierce Marion Crane's body, just her fighting off the attack. Additionally, Hitchcock's use of quick cuts in post-production creates the illusion of multiple stab wounds in the audience's mind. A similar use of cuts and character reaction can be seen in this clip from the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. 4 years later, legendary horror filmmaker John Carpenter laid out the formula for a slasher film. In 1978's Halloween, the opening sequence, utilizing a Steadicam, put the audience into the killer's own POV as they witnessed the murder unfold. The narrative of the film was relatable to audience. What happens when you're attacked in your own home by someone you don't know, and that's what caused it to be truly shocking. Following the success of Halloween, every studio wanted a piece of the pie, and America saw a rush of shallow, over-the-top slasher films in the 1980s. However, one such film that utilized fairly new techniques was Sam Raimi's Evil Dead. Raimi used a handheld camera to create the shaky cam and sent audience barreling through the woods or towards characters, a technique used today still. By the late 1980s and early 1990s, slasher films had lost their way. Extended franchises no longer made the films feel relatable when characters like Jason Voorhees and Freddy Krueger kept coming back to life. The end of the slasher genre would find its own demise in one of its own pioneers, Wes Craven. Craven's film franchise Scream was very self-aware and poked fun at its own tropes, showing the audience how repetitive and predictable these films had become.
Certain rules that one must abide by in order to successfully survive a horror movie. For instance, number 1, you can never have sex. No. Big no-no! Big no!
I'm a dead man.
Sex equals death, okay? Number 2, you can never drink or do drugs. No, the sin factor. It's a sin. It's an extension of number 1. And number 3, never, ever, ever, under any circumstances say, I'll be right back. Because you won't be back.
I'm getting another beer. You want one?
Yeah, sure.
I'll be right back.
Following the end of the slash era, it seemed that the genre of horror was dead. However, unique film would spark a new craze. The Blair Witch Project, released in 1999, told the story of 3 individuals lost in the woods during their hunt for an old urban legend. What made this film so unique was its style of filming and marketing. The entire film is shot by a handheld camera that one of the main characters is using throughout.
Conversation on video.
Because we're making a documentary.
Not about us getting lost. We're making a documentary about a witch.
The director allowed actors to ad-lib many of their lines and only provided a rough outline for the actors to follow, which created authentic and real performances.
I'm scared to close my eyes. I'm scared to open them.
To promote this film, none of the key actors were allowed to sit down for press interviews, and a fake webpage was set up talking about their disappearance. This new approach led to the craze now known as found footage films, most popular of which is the Paranormal Activity franchise, which also utilizes handheld and even security camera perspectives to tell its story. By using these youthful techniques, audience members were once again drawn from their seat and into the screen, surrounded by familiar places and familiar people. Following the success of the ghostly found footage movies, studios focused in on what the films were about, hauntings. They moved to drop the found footage aspect, and as a result, filmmakers delivered a more stylistic approach to telling ghost stories. James Wan's 2011 film Insidious is a perfect depiction of this. Wan moved to use bleak, dark color palettes to tell his story and reflect on the overall theme of the film. Additionally, the utilization of continuous shots and sound would scare the audience by revealing something right before their eyes. However, just as before, studio after studio would copy this formula and turn out endless look-alike films. As the US began to move through the early 2000s, everything was being done in excess in film. Action movies saw complex, almost unfollowable scenes, and that style quickly found its way into horror. Films like Saw, also directed by James Wan, strung some sequences together at high rates of speed to unnerve the audience and get the adrenaline going. In the remake of Halloween, director Rob Zombie used camera movement during death scenes to place the audience right into the action.
That mask right off your face.
Now in the past decade, the horror genre has evolved once again. New directors like Jordan Peele take a stylistic approach to telling a story, such as this sequence in Get Out.
Now, sink into the floor.
Wait.
Sink.
Not only that, but Peele uses horror to highlight the issues of today, such as race relations. Further advancements in technology also create new monsters and worlds for the audience to experience, like in the two It films from 2017 and 2019. And horror has found a new place on television with shows like The Walking Dead, Stranger Things, and American Horror Story, each with a unique way to tell their story, such as the haunting wide shots of downtown Atlanta, or the post-continuity style of battling the Mind Flayer. As a new decade begins, we can definitely see that the style of horror and the stories it tells have greatly evolved. One thing is for certain, horror always finds a way to provide us with a medium to face our fears and make us think.